I always knew I didn't belong in my family. Not really. I didn't speak like them, didn't dress like them, didn't spend like them, and worst of all, I didn't look rich enough to be one of them. When I was younger, I believed love would be enough, that if I worked hard, if I succeeded quietly, they would finally see me. But family doesn't always mean safe, and blood doesn't always mean love. It started with a text, a stupid little message that changed everything. I had just stepped out of the grocery store, one bag of rice, some greens, a discounted bottle of wine. My phone buzzed. Linton family chat. I hadn't opened it in months. I almost didn't. But something told me to look. Biggest family gathering in 10 years, formal attire. Luxury theme. Let's show the world what legacy looks like. They were throwing a party at a place called Linton Hall. Everyone replied, laughing, tagging each other. Dozens of names filled the screen. But mine nowhere. I stared at the chat, scrolled back up, checked again, still nothing. So I wrote, carefully, sounds exciting. Where's the invite link? No response, just silence. That night, I called my mother. She answered like I was a bill collector. Dry, cold. What is it, Ava? I'm about to sleep. I swallowed hard. I saw the chat. Why wasn't I invited? There was a pause. Too long. Then she said, Ava, you chose a different life. You're not really someone we... Present. Present. I wasn't a person to her. I was a problem to be hidden. You don't attend our events. You live where you live. You're not like the rest of us. The rest of us. She really said that. I forced my voice not to shake. Thanks for being honest. She didn't ask if I was okay. She just said, take care of yourself, and hung up. They thought I was poor, invisible, forgettable. What they didn't know was that while they flaunted, I was building, quietly, patiently. Every dollar I earned, I invested, in silence, in strategy. I didn't need to show off. I needed to own. And 3 months ago, I did. I bought a building, old, elegant, historical, a property with high potential and low attention. The name Linton Hall, yes, the very place. They were hosting their grand reunion. The irony, delicious. They had no idea the place they booked the marble floors, the chandeliers. The private valet was mine. I didn't cancel their reservation. No, too easy. I wanted them to walk in with pride, to smile, to clink glasses, to toast to family legacy, under my roof. So I called the event manager. Her name was Kayla. Let them continue as planned. I said, but I'll be there. Quietly. Kayla laughed. You want to watch the show? No. I replied, I want to end it. The chat buzzed all week. Imported caviar, gold-rimmed napkins. My suit cost $5,000. I said nothing. I just made one more move. A suit, tailored, midnight blue, clean, powerful, and one small envelope. Inside, a copy of the title deed, and a note. Ownership means more than blood. December 17th, cold skies, quiet morning. I pulled up in a simple Tesla. Nothing flashy, just clean. No one recognized me. That was the point. I entered through the service elevator. The staff nodded. Good morning, Ms. Linton, Kayla whispered. I walked to the 3rd floor, the executive balcony. Below me, laughter, crystal chandeliers, gold gowns, endless champagne. And them, my family. My cousin Regina raised her glass. To legacy, to class, I didn't need to be seen. I just needed to watch. I sipped my coffee and waited. They didn't even recognize the woman behind the glass. I stood on the 3rd floor balcony, wrapped in silence, while they danced in a ballroom they didn't own. Crystal chandeliers, string quartet, laughter so loud it could drown a lifetime of shame. My mother, my cousins, my father, standing at the center like a king, every one of them beautifully dressed, perfectly posed, utterly unaware. Unaware that every light they stood under, every flower on those tables, every polished tile they walked on, belonged to me. I watched them, like a director behind the curtain. Regina was in full form. Her gold feather dress screamed desperation. She clinked her glass with a dramatic smile. Family is everything, she declared. Blood, legacy, class. They applauded. Of course they did. They were so high on themselves, they forgot who they left out, forgot who they tried to erase. Kayla walked over, calm as ever. Would you like us to prepare the announcement I didn't answer right away? Just sipped my coffee and let the silence say what I couldn't. Then no, not yet. I wanted them to enjoy it, to soak in the feeling before it all unraveled. Back downstairs, someone mentioned my name. I heard it through the earpiece Kayla had set up. She's not really one of us. Never had taste, never had presence, always so basic. They laughed, ugly, from the gut. My father leaned in and said, "She's made her choice. Let's not talk about her tonight." His tone was soft, but final. I smiled. Let's not talk about her tonight, then maybe tomorrow. We'll talk about me. In my hand, I held the envelope, the one with the deed, the one with my name, legally, permanently, but I wasn't ready to drop it. Not yet. I wanted the moment to be earned, felt, feared. At 7:30 sharp, the pianist switched to a waltz. Guests floated across the marble floor. Every movement, elegant, every smile, curated. My sister, Dana, posed for photos near the orchid wall. She once told me I was too plain to be photographed beside her. She once edited me out of her wedding photos. But tonight, her photographer worked under lights I paid for. Kayla returned. There's a minor delay with the dessert course. Want me to step in? I shook my head. No, let them enjoy the sweetness before it turns bitter. She grinned. You're terrifying. No, I said. I'm precise. At 8:02 p.m., the manager of the hall approached Regina. On cue, he whispered something in her ear. She looked confused, then annoyed. She followed him to the front of the room, tapping her glass again. Everyone. A moment voices quieted, forks lowered. The venue owner would like to say a few words, she said. Then she laughed, probably to thank us for choosing such a beautiful place. The doors opened, and I walked in. I took the room in stride. Every head turned, some eyes widened, some mouths dropped, but no one said a word. Not yet. My heels echoed across their silence. I didn't need a mic, didn't need a speech. I stopped in the center, right beneath the chandelier. Good evening. That's all I said. One cousin whispered, Is that Ava? Someone else, what's she doing here? And then, my mother. Darling, this is a private. I raised a hand. She froze. I know exactly where I am. I said, I own this building. The room gasped, a sharp collective inhale, the kind that only comes when lies collapse. My father stood slowly. Don't be dramatic, he said. You're not. I turned to Kayla, who had entered behind me. Please hand this to Mr. Linton. She did. He opened the envelope. His hands shook. Inside the deed, the contract, my name, in print and ink. I looked around. This building was purchased 3 months ago by my company. I signed the documents. I made the investment. I restored this place. I paused. And tonight, I watched you all celebrate legacy in a space you once said I didn't belong. Silence. Dead. Heavy. Thick. Then Dana, ever the fool, tried to recover. Well, how nice. I suppose this means you've done well for yourself. I tilted my head. Dana, I've built quietly, while you posted pictures and chased hashtags. Gasps. Real ones this time. Regina finally stepped forward. This is still a family event. Is it? I asked, because I wasn't invited. Her voice cracked. Well, we didn't think you'd fit in. I finished her sentence. I know. I turned to leave, but then paused. You may all continue your party, I said. But know this. Every time you raise a glass, take a photo, brag about where you've been, you'll remember who owns the floor beneath your feet. I walked away. No applause, no music, just silence. And the sound of truth, echoing across marble. I didn't look back, not when they gasped, not when the room fell silent, not even when my father tried to speak again. The moment had done its work. I didn't need to explain. I didn't need to defend myself. I just walked away and let silence carry what words never could. The hallway outside felt warmer than the ballroom. lighter. It's funny how a building can feel like a prison one moment and a throne room the next. I stepped into the elevator, alone. Kayla didn't follow. She didn't need to. She had already played her part. As the doors slid shut, I caught a glimpse of the chandelier, still glowing, still beautiful, but everything beneath it shattered. On the ride down, I let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. Not relief, not pride, just release. Years of pretending I didn't care. Years of being left out, talked down to, made to feel like nothing. That weight had finally lifted, and all it took was one room, one envelope, one truth. The lobby was quiet, too quiet. A security guard looked up from the front desk and nodded. He knew. He'd seen me come in through the side door, watched me move through the halls like a shadow. Now I was walking out center stage. I nodded back and kept walking. Outside, the air hit different, crisp, clean, real. My car was waiting. I didn't rush. Let them wonder where I went. Let them choke on the silence I left behind. They had spoken over me for years, dismissed me, mocked me. Now every word they didn't say spoke louder than all their fake toasts combined. I drove home in silence. No music, no podcast, just my own breathing, and the occasional hum of the road beneath me. When I reached my apartment, yes, still the same one in the old district they sneered at, I stepped inside, kicked off my heels, and dropped the envelope on the table. I didn't need to frame it. Didn't need to celebrate. I already had everything I needed. The next morning, my phone exploded, not with calls, but headlines. Young executive acquires Linton Hall in silent buyout. Socialite family party unknowingly held in property owned by estranged daughter. Legacy flipped Ava Linton breaks the internet without saying a word. I didn't post any of it. Didn't like or share. Didn't comment. I didn't need to. The world was speaking for me now. Regina called first. Twice. I let it ring. Then blocked her. My sister Dana followed. "Can we talk?" she texted. I read it, then put the phone down. My mother didn't call, but she sent a voice note. 17 seconds of silence, then a choked breath, then deleted it before I could even play it again. My father, he sent an email. Subject line, "Let's be civil." The body. "Next time you plan something like this, at least have the decency to let us know." That was it. No apology, no shame, just wounded pride, trying to save face. I stared at the screen, then closed the tab. I wasn't angry. I was finally indifferent. In the days that followed, offers came in, interviews, features, speaking events. One magazine wanted to call me the silent heiress. I declined. I wasn't silent out of strategy. I was silent because they never deserved my voice. What shocked me most, though, was the message from someone I hadn't heard from in years. My cousin Julia. She'd left the country a while back. No one ever mentioned her much. She was too soft, they said. Too sensitive. She wrote, "I saw the video. You were magnificent. You said more in 2 minutes than they've said in 2 decades. Proud of you," I cried. Just a little, then replied, "Thank you. I remember how they treated you too. You didn't deserve it either." She responded with a heart, nothing more, but that was enough. I didn't need a family reunion. I didn't need validation. What I had now was space, was peace, was truth. I didn't need to prove I belonged at their table, because I built the whole damn building, and someday they'd walk past it again, or throw another party, or try to pretend none of this ever happened. But the walls would remember, the floors would remember, and so would I. I sat by my window that night, watching the city lights flicker, thinking about legacy, not the kind they toast over champagne, but the kind you build with scars and silence. And in that moment, I whispered to no one but myself, "I'm done waiting to be invited." I write my own guest list now. 2 weeks passed, and not a single word from them. Not a visit, not a knock, not even another half-hearted apology, and that was fine with me. The world outside my window had gone on spinning, but something inside me had shifted, like a door that had finally clicked shut. I wasn't the girl waiting for validation anymore. I wasn't chasing a seat at their table. I owned the ground their table stood on. That was more than enough. But what surprised me was how quietly the power came. There was no parade, no sudden roar of success. It was soft, still. and heavy in the best way. I woke up, and I breathed easier. I walked slower, straighter, like I had finally grown into the weight of my own name. And then came the letters, not from the media, not from strangers, but from them. Folded apologies, thin envelopes, stiff, formal handwriting that barely hid the guilt beneath. My mother's was the first. Dear Ava, your actions were unexpected, but perhaps necessary. That was her opening line. She didn't say sorry. She didn't ask forgiveness. Just acknowledgement. Like she was marking an event, not mourning a wound. She signed it with care. Mom. Care. Not love. I folded it carefully, put it back in the envelope, and placed it in a drawer, unopened. It would have said more. My father's came a day later, typed, double-spaced, almost like a resume. He wrote, "What you did was tactless, but effective. You made your point. Now let's move forward with dignity." He signed it with full name, middle initial and all. I almost laughed. Still performing, even now. But the one that stung in a way I didn't expect was from my youngest cousin, Miles, barely 20. Barely heard my name growing up. He wrote, "I always thought you were the weird one. Now I think you were the only one awake." That line sat with me, long after I folded the letter, long after the sun had set. Maybe that's what power does. Not just silence rooms, not just flip legacies, but awaken the ones who've been watching, quietly, from the sidelines. I didn't respond to any of them. Not yet. Instead, I started building again, but this time not alone. I created a fund for women like me, girls left out of dinners, off the family group chat, told their ambition was not the right aesthetic. I called it the guest list. Because legacy, to me, wasn't about inheritance. It was about invitation. Within a month, we had 5 recipients, then 10, then 20. Women who had started businesses from their bedrooms, built apps from library computers, organized neighborhood cleanups without any media coverage. They reminded me of me, but braver, because they were still fighting without a balcony to stand on. I met one of them, Nora, for coffee one Sunday. She said, "I thought this was fake. I thought no one saw people like me." I looked her in the eye and said, "You don't need to be seen. You need to be backed." She didn't cry. She just nodded. Strong, like steel wrapped in sunlight. Word got around, not fast, not flashy, but real. The media called it a quiet revolution. I just called it correction. And then, like vultures sensing heat again, my family returned. Regina messaged me. "We're hosting another event. We'd love for you to co-sponsor this time." Co-sponsor? Like I was a donor to their little drama production. I replied with one sentence. "Only if I write the script." She didn't respond. Of course not. Then came Dana, a voice message. Her voice was softer now, almost real. "Ava, I've been thinking, maybe we were wrong. Maybe I was wrong. That maybe was doing a lot of work." But I let her say it. Then I deleted it. Not out of anger, just peace. Because the truth is, I didn't need them to say sorry. I needed me to stop asking them to. And that shift, that subtle, seismic shift, it changed everything. The family that once measured success by appearances now had to live in the shadow of a woman they refused to invite. I didn't chase power. I didn't scream for attention. I just walked into a room they thought I didn't deserve and reminded them I built it. Legacy isn't passed down, it's carved out in silence, in strategy, in truth. And sometimes, the most revolutionary thing you can do is show up, say nothing, and let them feel the weight of everything they refuse to see. There's a moment right after the storm ends when the silence feels louder than thunder ever did. I was in that moment. No more messages, no more whispers, no more invitations disguised as manipulation, just stillness and peace. The building was quiet that morning. Linton Hall, mine. I walked the main corridor slowly, heels echoing across marble floors that once carried the footsteps of people who pretended I didn't exist. Now every brick in that hallway carried my name. I didn't come to revisit pain. I came to close the door, for good. Kayla was waiting in the atrium, clipboard in hand, as always. "There's a request," she said. "Family wants to book the hall again." "Same date next year," I raised an eyebrow. "They want to rent it." She nodded. No mention of you. Just formal inquiry. Anonymous. But we know who it is. I looked around the space, the windows, the chandeliers, the gold embossed trim I personally chose during restoration. They had ignored me for years. Now they wanted back in through the same door they once slammed in my face. I smiled. But not out of pettiness, out of clarity. Tell them it's unavailable, I said. Kayla raised a brow. Blocked for another event, no. I looked her in the eye. Blocked. For good. She didn't ask why. She didn't need to. She just scribbled it on her clipboard, then smiled. The kind of smile that only comes when a woman sees another woman close a wound without leaving a scar. I stepped outside. The air smelled of rain, but the sky was clearing. Fitting. It felt like the city itself had decided to start over with me. A few weeks later, I was asked to speak at a leadership summit, all-female panel, young entrepreneurs, high school students in the front row, eyes wide with hope. One girl stood during Q&A. She couldn't have been more than 17. She asked, "What do you do when people say you don't belong?" I looked at her and saw me. The me who stood outside rooms I was born into, but never welcomed in. The me who thought success meant being seen. The me who once begged to be invited. I walked to the edge of the stage, looked her dead in the eye, and said, "You build your own table. And when they ask for a seat, you decide if there's one left." The room went still. Then came the applause. Not loud, but long. Like truth doesn't need to shout, it just needs to land. After the event, the girl found me backstage. "Can I hug you?" she asked. I nodded. She didn't cry, neither did I. But something passed between us. Something generational, something unspoken. Power and peace. That night, I sat by the window of my new office, overlooking the skyline. Glass, steel, lights blinking like distant yeses. I thought about legacy again. Not the one my family tried to gatekeep, not the one they defined with monograms and wine lists, but the one I built in silence, in solitude, in spite of. My name didn't need to be engraved in gold. It was carved into moments. Moments like handing over that envelope, walking out of that ballroom, reading that text and not replying. That's the kind of legacy they'll never understand. Because it wasn't inherited. It was earned. A few months later, Dana sent a photo, no caption, just an image. Her son, my nephew, standing outside Linton Hall, pointing up at the building. The look on his face, wonder. Real wonder. Not status, not envy, just admiration. I didn't reply. But I saved the photo. Because maybe one day when he's old enough, I'll tell him the story, the whole thing. And not as a tale of revenge, but of becoming. People think revenge is loud, that it burns, explodes, screams. Look at me now, but the best revenge. It's quiet. It walks out the door, closes it behind you, and leaves them wondering how you became everything they were too blind to see. I don't wish them harm. I don't wish them failure. I just wish them time to sit at the table they fought so hard to protect, and wonder why it suddenly feels so empty without me there. Because I didn't just leave the room, I left the blueprint and built the whole damn table.